We're canceling your kids' Christmas gifts, budget issues, Dad texted. But sister's kids got iPads, watches, designer shoes. I took my kids to Aspen. Posted photos. Niece, why didn't you invite us? I replied, budget issues. Mom called. How could you? I said. The text arrived on November 15th, exactly 40 days before Christmas. I was sitting in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. Sorry, sweetheart, but your mother and I need to cancel Christmas gifts for Oliver and Grace this year. Budget issues. Hope you understand. Love, Dad. I stared at the screen until the words blurred together. My father owned 3 car dealerships across Colorado. My parents had just returned from a Mediterranean cruise that lasted 21 days. Budget issues? The phrase felt like sandpaper against my skin. My daughter Grace was 7 years old and had been asking about grandparent presents since Halloween. Oliver, my 9-year-old son, still believed in the magic of family gatherings during the holidays. Now I had to explain why Grandma and Grandpa suddenly couldn't afford a single toy. I called my younger sister Lauren immediately. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice bright and carefree. Hey. What's up? Did you get a text from Dad? I kept my tone neutral, hoping she'd confirm the same message. About what? Lauren sounded genuinely confused, which made my stomach drop. About Christmas gifts. For the kids. There was a pause. No, nothing like that. Why? I read her the text verbatim. Another pause followed, longer this time. That's weird, Lauren finally said. Maybe they're planning something different this year? Like a family trip instead of individual gifts? Her optimism felt misplaced, but I didn't argue. We chatted for another minute before I hung up, a gnawing sensation building in my chest. 3 days later, Lauren posted photos on social media. My niece Brooke, age 8, stood beaming in the family room holding the newest iPad model. The caption read, "Early Christmas surprise from Grandma and Grandpa. She's been wanting this forever." I zoomed in on the image. Behind Brooke, I could see wrapped boxes stacked near the fireplace. My mother appeared in the background, smiling with her arms around my nephew Tyler, who was 10. He wore what looked like an expensive smartwatch on his wrist. My hands shook as I scrolled through the remaining photos. Designer sneakers for both kids, brand names clearly visible. A gaming console still in its packaging. Gift bags from high-end stores clustered on the coffee table. Budget issues. I set my phone down and walked to the kitchen where my husband Nathan was preparing dinner. He took one look at my face and put down the knife he'd been using to chop vegetables. What happened? I showed him Lauren's posts without saying anything. He scrolled through them slowly, his jaw tightening with each image. Are you kidding me? Nathan's voice rarely rose above his usual calm tenor, but now it cracked with anger. They told you they couldn't afford gifts? Budget issues, I repeated, the words tasting bitter. Nathan pulled me into a hug. We stood there in our kitchen while the evening light faded through the windows, both of us processing this particular brand of betrayal. This wasn't the first time my parents had favored Lauren. Growing up, I'd learned to accept the uneven distribution of their attention and resources. Lauren was the baby, the charming one, the child who never caused problems. I was the eldest, the responsible one, the daughter who was expected to understand. When Lauren dropped out of college junior year, my parents paid her rent for 18 months. When I graduated summa cum laude and asked for help with a security deposit on my first apartment, they suggested I find a roommate to share expenses. When Lauren married Kevin, my parents contributed $40,000 to the wedding. When Nathan and I got married 2 years earlier, they gave us $500 and said they'd gone over budget on their kitchen renovation. The pattern was clear. I'd spent decades making peace with it, telling myself that favoritism was just how some families operated. But involving my children? Lying directly to me about their financial situation while showering Lauren's kids with expensive electronics? That crossed a line I hadn't known existed. I spent the next week watching Lauren's social media carefully. More gifts appeared. A post about Brooke's new designer backpack for the spring semester. Tyler showing off limited edition basketball shoes that retailed for $250. My mother appeared in several photos, always smiling, always generous with her affection toward her favored grandchildren. Meanwhile, Grace asked me daily when we'd see Grandma and Grandpa for the holidays. Oliver made a Christmas list that included modest requests: a science kit, some books, a new soccer ball. Neither of them knew they'd been cut from the gift roster entirely. I didn't tell Nathan what I was planning. He would have tried to talk me out of it, would have suggested a calm family discussion or a heartfelt letter expressing my hurt. My husband was a good man who believed in communication and healthy boundaries. But this situation required something else entirely. I started researching luxury ski resorts in Aspen. Nathan and I both worked in finance and lived comfortably, but we'd always been conservative with vacation spending. We prioritized college savings for the kids and maintained a healthy emergency fund. Frivolous expenses weren't our style. Except now they were going to be. I booked 5 nights at the St. Regis Aspen Resort for the week between Christmas and New Year's. The suite alone cost $8,000. I added ski lessons for the kids, equipment rentals, and reservations at 3 of Aspen's finest restaurants. The total came to just over $14,000. Nathan nearly choked when I showed him the confirmation email. "Are you serious right now?" He stared at the screen with wide eyes. "Completely serious." I sat beside him on the couch, taking his hand. "We can afford it. We've been saving for years. Why not use that money to make incredible memories with our children? This is about your parents." It wasn't a question. "This is about showing Oliver and Grace that they matter," I corrected. "That they deserve wonderful experiences and people who follow through on their promises." Nathan studied my face for a long moment. "You're going to post pictures. Every single day we're there." He squeezed my hand. "Then let's make them amazing pictures." I told Grace and Oliver about the trip on December 10th, making them promise to keep it secret until after Christmas. Their excitement was immediate and pure. Grace literally jumped up and down in the living room, her dark curls bouncing. Oliver hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "We're really going skiing?" Oliver's eyes shone with wonder. "Like professional skiing?" "Like professional skiing," I confirmed. "With lessons and everything." Grace clapped her hands together. "Can we have hot chocolate every day?" "Every single day," Nathan promised, lifting her into his arms. "With extra marshmallows." The joy on their faces erased any lingering doubt about my plan. My children deserved this. They deserve grandparents who kept their word and parents who prioritized their happiness. Christmas morning arrived cold and clear. We exchanged gifts at home, thoughtful presents we'd chosen carefully for each other. The kids were thrilled with everything they received, never once mentioning what my parents had promised and failed to deliver. My phone remained silent. No call from my mother wishing us happy holidays. No text from my father. Lauren posted an elaborate photo spread of her family's Christmas morning, my parents featured prominently throughout. My mother wore a cashmere sweater I'd never seen before. My father looked relaxed and content, surrounded by his preferred grandchildren. I felt nothing looking at those images. The hurt had crystallized into something harder, something purposeful. We left for Aspen the next morning, driving through mountain passes dusted with fresh snow. The kids sang Christmas carols in the backseat while Nathan navigated the winding roads. The beauty of the landscape felt almost surreal, vast peaks touching impossibly blue sky, forests of aspen and pine stretching endlessly. The resort exceeded even my elevated expectations. Our suite featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains, a fireplace with river rocks around, and enough space for the kids to run circuits around the furniture. Grace discovered the heated bathroom floors and declared it the best invention in human history. I started posting photos that afternoon. Nothing too elaborate at first, just a shot of our suite with a mountain view, captioned simply, "Winter vacation begins." Within an hour, Lauren commented, "Wow, looks amazing. Where are you guys?" I didn't respond. The next morning, I posted pictures of Oliver and Grace in their ski gear, standing outside the rental shop with impossibly bright smiles. "First time skiing. Wish us luck." Then photos from their lesson, Grace making a wobbly snowplow down a gentle slope, Oliver attempting his first chairlift ride with a mixture of terror and exhilaration on his face. Dinner at a restaurant where the chef personally greeted each table. The kids tried escargot and pronounced it weird but good. Hot chocolate with enormous marshmallows at an outdoor cafe, mountains rising behind us. More skiing. Improvement visible in every photo. Grace's technique smoothing out, Oliver's confidence building. I posted everything. Every meal, every slope, every moment of joy my children experienced. The contrast with Lauren's posts from Christmas, her kids surrounded by expensive gadgets they'd received from our parents, became increasingly stark. On the third day, my niece Brooke commented on a photo of Grace and Oliver having a snowball fight. "Why didn't you invite us? That looks so fun." I'd been waiting for this exact moment. My fingers moved across the phone screen with steady purpose. Budget issues. Nothing more. Just those two words, the same ones my father had used to justify abandoning my children at Christmas. The comment sat there for exactly 12 minutes before my phone rang. My mother's number flashed on the screen. I answered on the third ring. "Hi, Mom. What on earth is going on?" No greeting, no pleasantries. Her voice carried the sharp edge I remembered from childhood, the tone she used when I disappointed her somehow. "Brooke is upset that you didn't include them in your vacation. How could you be so thoughtless?" I stepped out onto our suite's private balcony, closing the door behind me. Inside, Nathan was helping the kids order room service for lunch. The mountain air bit cold against my skin. "How could I?" I repeated slowly. "That's an interesting question. Don't be difficult. You know what I mean. You're flaunting this expensive trip all over social media while Lauren's kids feel left out. It's cruel. Like telling my children you couldn't afford Christmas gifts was cruel?" My voice remained calm, almost conversational. "Those budget issues you mentioned?" Silence stretched across the line. I could hear my mother breathing, could picture her face as she realized I knew about the gifts Lauren's kids received. "That was different," she finally said. "Explain how." "We didn't think you'd mind. You and Nathan do well for yourselves. Lauren and Kevin struggle more, so we wanted to help make Christmas special for their children." I watched a skier navigate a distant black diamond run, carving precise turns down the steep slope. "So you lied to me instead of having an honest conversation about your priorities." "We didn't lie. We just..." "Budget issues," I interrupted. "That's what Dad texted me." "A lie. A deliberate falsehood to avoid admitting you were choosing Lauren's kids over mine." "It's not about choosing." My mother's voice rose defensively. "We love all our grandchildren equally." "Really? When was the last time you visited Oliver and Grace? When did you last call them just to talk?" Another pause. "We're busy. You know that. Too busy to FaceTime twice a month? Too busy to remember Grace's birthday without a Facebook reminder? But not too busy to buy Tyler a $500 gaming console? How do you know what we bought? Lauren posts everything online, Mom. Every gift, every special moment you share with her kids. Meanwhile, my children ask me every day in November when they'd see you for the holidays." My chest felt tight, years of accumulated hurt pressing against my ribs. "They made you cards. Grace drew a picture of the four of you having cocoa together. Oliver wrote you a letter about his science fair project because he knew you'd be interested." I heard a small sound that might have been a sob, but my mother recovered quickly. "You're being manipulative. Using the children as weapons." "No," I said quietly. "I'm protecting them from people who treat them as less important than their cousins. From grandparents who think lying is acceptable if it means avoiding uncomfortable conversations." "So you're what? Cutting us off? Keeping the kids from us?" "I'm doing exactly what you did at Christmas. Making choices about where to invest my time and resources. Speaking of which, this call is costing me precious vacation minutes with my children. The ones you claimed budget issues prevented you from buying gifts for." "You're being petty." "I'm being clear. If you want a relationship with Oliver and Grace, it needs to be genuine and consistent. No more last-minute cancellations. No more broken promises. And definitely no more lying about your financial situation while showering their cousins with designer everything." "What about Lauren?" My mother's voice turned sharp again. "You're hurting her too with this petty revenge. Lauren has you and Dad completely in her corner, just like always. She'll survive without our presence at family functions. Now if you'll excuse me, I have hot chocolate plans with my kids." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. Nathan appeared in the doorway, concern evident on his face. "You okay?" I nodded, then shook my head, then started crying. He held me while I sobbed against his shoulder, years of favoritism and dismissal finally breaking through the careful control I'd maintained. "They'll never change," I said when I could speak again. "They'll never see what they've done wrong." "Probably not," Nathan agreed. "But our kids will never doubt that we chose them first. That we protected them from people who couldn't appreciate how incredible they are." Through the glass door, I could see Grace and Oliver attacking their room service lunch with enthusiasm. Oliver was making Grace laugh with some story involving his ski instructor. Their joy was uncomplicated, their confidence intact. That was worth everything. My father called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. He called again an hour later. I declined the call. Lauren texted around 9 p.m., "Can we talk? Mom is really upset." I responded, "Sure. Let's discuss why she thought lying to me was appropriate parenting." The 3 dots indicating Lauren was typing appeared and disappeared 4 times before she finally sent, "This isn't fair to the kids. They didn't do anything wrong." "Exactly," I wrote back. "My kids didn't do anything wrong either. Yet they were the ones your Christmas budget couldn't accommodate." No response came. We spent our remaining days in Aspen building memories that would last far longer than any gaming console or designer sneakers. Oliver mastered the beginner slopes and attempted his first intermediate run. Grace made friends with another 7-year-old at ski school and they spent hours building snow structures together. We took a horse-drawn sleigh ride through a pristine valley, blankets tucked around us while the driver pointed out elk in the distance. We had dinner at a fondue restaurant where the kids giggled over dropped bread pieces. We watched the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and pink from our balcony, hot chocolate in hand just as Grace had requested. I posted every moment. Not out of spite anymore, but because these memories deserve to be celebrated. My children deserve to have their joy documented and shared. The reactions to our posts told their own story. Friends from work commented with genuine enthusiasm, asking about our experience and wanting recommendations. Nathan's family sent encouraging messages, his sister even joking that we were making her own vacation plans look boring by comparison. The support felt validating in ways I hadn't anticipated. But the silence from my own family spoke volumes. Lauren stopped commenting entirely after my budget issues response to Brooke. My parents' absence from the comment section was glaring, especially considering how actively they engaged with every post Lauren made about her children. On our 4th day in Aspen, something unexpected happened. We were having breakfast at a mountainside cafe when Grace suddenly asked, "Mom, why doesn't Grandma call us anymore?" I exchanged a quick glance with Nathan before answering. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, sweetheart. It doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. But we didn't disagree with her," Oliver pointed out, his logical 9-year-old brain cutting straight to the issue. "She just stopped talking to us." The conversation I'd been dreading had arrived over blueberry pancakes and orange juice. I set down my fork and gave both kids my full attention. "You're right. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults make choices that affect other people, even when those people don't deserve it." I chose my words carefully, not wanting to poison their relationship with their grandparents but refusing to lie. "Grandma and Grandpa told us they couldn't buy you Christmas gifts this year. But then they bought very expensive presents for your cousins. That hurt my feelings because it wasn't fair to you." Grace's forehead wrinkled in confusion. "But they have lots of money. You said Grandpa owns car places." "He does. Which is why saying they couldn't afford presents wasn't truthful." Nathan joined the conversation, his voice gentle. "Your mom is making sure you know that you're just as important as anyone else in the family. Sometimes that means having difficult conversations with people we love." Oliver processed this silently for a moment. "Is that why we came here? To show them we don't need their presents?" The perceptiveness of children never ceased to amaze me. "Partly. But mostly because I wanted you both to have an incredible experience. I wanted you to know that your dad and I will always make you a priority, even when other people don't." "I like this better than presents anyway," Grace announced, returning to her pancakes with the resilience only children possess. "Can we go ice skating after breakfast?" Just like that, the heavy moment passed. But I caught Nathan's eye across the table and saw my own mixture of sadness and resolve reflected there. Our children shouldn't have to understand favoritism at their ages, yet here we were, explaining why their grandparents had chosen their cousins over them. That afternoon, while the kids took a break from skiing to build a snow fort near our lodge, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered cautiously. "Is this Mrs. Mitchell?" A woman's voice, professional and polite. "Yes, speaking. This is Patricia Chen from Mountain View Elementary. I'm the school counselor, and I wanted to follow up about Grace. She mentioned during our last session that she was worried about her grandparents." My stomach dropped. "Grace has been seeing the school counselor?" "Oh. I apologize, I assumed you knew. She's been coming to our optional lunch groups for the past few weeks. Nothing concerning, just normal social-emotional check-ins we offer to all students." Patricia's tone shifted to reassuring. She mentioned being confused about why her grandparents visit her cousins but not her. I wanted to reach out and make sure everything was okay at home. I explained the situation briefly, professional embarrassment mixing with maternal guilt. Had I not noticed my daughter struggling? Had I been so focused on my own hurt that I'd missed hers? "Mrs. Mitchell, if I may," Patricia said gently, "what you're describing sounds like you're actually protecting Grace from an unhealthy dynamic. Children are remarkably perceptive. She already sensed the imbalance in how your parents treat her versus her cousins. You're teaching her that it's okay to have boundaries, even with family. That's an important lesson." After we hung up, I sat on a bench watching Grace and Oliver pack snow with intense concentration, their laughter carrying across the pristine landscape. Nathan joined me, sensing something had shifted. I told him about the call. I didn't know she was talking to the school counselor. "Kids process things in their own ways," he said. "But Patricia's right. We're modeling healthy boundaries for them. That matters more than maintaining a dysfunctional status quo. She's 7 years old. She shouldn't need counseling because her grandparents play favorites. No, she shouldn't. But she has parents who notice when something's wrong and who take action to protect her. Not every kid has that." Nathan took my hand. "You're doing the right thing, even though it's hard. Especially because it's hard." I leaned against his shoulder, watching our children create their snow fortress with single-minded determination. Grace stood on Oliver's shoulders to place a pinnacle on top, both of them laughing when it immediately collapsed. They started over without frustration, just pure joy in the process. "Look at them," I murmured. "They're happy. Really happy." "Because they have parents who put them first," Nathan said. "Remember that when your mother calls crying or your father tries to buy forgiveness. Remember this moment right here." On our last morning, I posted a final photo, all 4 of us bundled in winter gear, mountains rising behind us, genuine happiness evident on every face. The caption read, "Best investment we ever made." Some things are worth the budget. The flight home felt bittersweet. Oliver and Grace chattered about their favorite moments while Nathan and I exchanged knowing glances. We'd given them something precious, something my parents' thoughtless favoritism couldn't touch. My phone had remained relatively quiet during our last 2 days. No more calls from my mother, no additional texts from Lauren. The silence felt like its own form of communication. We arrived home to find a package on our doorstep. My mother's handwriting addressed the label. Inside were wrapped gifts for Oliver and Grace, clearly expensive, clearly last-minute attempts at reconciliation. I carried the box inside and set it on the kitchen counter without opening it. "What should we do with those?" Nathan asked quietly. "Return them unopened," I said. With a note explaining that our family doesn't accept gifts given out of guilt or obligation. "That's harsh." "That's honest." I leaned against the counter, exhausted suddenly. They had every opportunity to be present grandparents to our children. They chose differently. Now they get to live with that choice. Nathan wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "You're protecting them. I'm teaching them that they deserve people who show up consistently, not just when they've been publicly embarrassed into action." The next morning, I packed the box back up and shipped it to my parents' address. I included a card with one sentence, "Our children's worth isn't measured by your guilt." 3 days later, my father called again. This time I answered. "We need to talk about this situation," he began, his voice carrying the authoritative tone he used in business negotiations. "There's nothing to discuss. You made your priorities clear at Christmas. I'm simply honoring those priorities." You're being unreasonable. We made a mistake, and we're trying to make it right. By sending expensive gifts after I called you out publicly? That's not making it right. That's damage control. I poured myself coffee while I talked, my free hand steady. Making it right would have been honoring your commitment to my children in the first place. Or being honest about your decision instead of lying about budget constraints. We didn't want to hurt your feelings. So you thought lying was better? You thought I wouldn't notice when Lauren posted pictures of the iPad and smartwatch and designer shoes you bought for her kids? My father sighed heavily. Your mother and I are prepared to set up college funds for Oliver and Grace. $50,000 each. Would that help resolve this? You think you can buy your way out of broken promises? The coffee tasted bitter against my tongue. This isn't about money. This has never been about money. It's about you treating my children as less valuable than their cousins. That's not true. Then when was Grace's last birthday? Silence. When did Oliver lose his first tooth? More silence. What instrument is Grace learning in school? What position does Oliver play in soccer? We can't be expected to remember every detail, but you know Brooke wants to be a veterinarian. You know Tyler made the travel baseball team. You flew out to watch his tournament last summer. My voice remained calm despite the anger building in my chest. You remember every detail of Lauren's children's lives because you're actively involved in those lives. You chose that involvement. You chose them. You're our daughter too. Then act like it. Don't throw money at the problem you created. Don't send guilt gifts. Either commit to being present, consistent grandparents to Oliver and Grace, or step back entirely. But don't lie to me again. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending budget issues prevented you from buying them Christmas gifts while you were spending thousands on their cousins. I hung up before he could respond. Nathan found me standing in the kitchen, phone still in my hand. How'd it go? He offered to set up college funds. $50,000 per kid. Seriously? Nathan's eyebrows rose. That's actually generous. It's transactional. It's him trying to fix decades of favoritism with a check. I set my phone on the counter. I don't want my children learning that love can be purchased or that boundaries can be negotiated with money. So what do? We keep living our lives. We keep creating memories with our kids. We teach them that their value isn't determined by people who can't see how extraordinary they are. I took Nathan's hands. And we never, ever make them feel like they have to earn our affection or compete for our attention. He pulled me close. Deal? Lauren called 2 weeks later. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Mom's in therapy, she said without preamble. Because of you. Because of me? Or because she's finally confronting some uncomfortable truths about her parenting? You're destroying this family over Christmas presents. Do you hear how insane that sounds? This isn't about Christmas presents. This is about a lifetime of watching our parents prioritize you and your children while mine got scraps of their attention. I walked to the window, watching Oliver practice soccer drills in the backyard. Did you know they lied to me? Told me they couldn't afford gifts for my kids while they were buying yours expensive electronics? They explained that Kevin and I are struggling financially, so they wanted to help. By lying to me? By making my children feel less important than yours? How is that helpful to anyone? Lauren's voice turned defensive. You've always been jealous of me. This is just another excuse to play victim? I'm not playing anything. I'm protecting my children from people who think favoritism is acceptable parenting. Oliver scored a goal against the imaginary goalkeeper and pumped his fist in celebration. If therapy helps Mom understand why that's problematic, good. Maybe she'll learn something. You're toxic. I'm clear about my boundaries. There's a difference. I turned from the window. Look, I don't hate you. I don't even blame you for accepting what our parents offered. But I won't sacrifice my children's emotional well-being to maintain a dysfunctional family system. Not anymore. So we're what, never seeing each other again? That depends. Can you acknowledge that what our parents did was wrong? That lying to me about budget issues while showering your kids with gifts was hurtful and inappropriate? Silence stretched between us. I didn't think so, I said softly. Goodbye, Lauren. Spring arrived with its usual Colorado drama, snow one day, 70 degrees the next. Oliver joined a competitive soccer league. Grace started piano lessons and discovered a natural talent for it. Nathan got promoted at work. We took weekend trips to nearby hiking trails and hosted dinner parties with friends who genuinely enjoyed spending time with our family. My parents didn't call again. Neither did Lauren. The silence used to feel like punishment, but now it felt like peace. On Grace's 8th birthday, we threw a party at a local art studio. She and her friends painted ceramic pieces and ate cupcakes with purple frosting. Oliver helped organize party games and barely complained about being surrounded by younger kids. As I watched Grace blow out her candles, surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally, I realized I didn't miss my parents' presence at all. Their absence no longer left a wound. It was simply a fact, like the weather or the mountains visible through the studio windows. Nathan found me later, after the guests had left and the kids were crashed on the couch at home from sugar exhaustion. "You okay?" he asked, as he often did. "Better than okay," I said honestly. "I'm free. We're all free." He understood without further explanation. That was the gift of a partner who truly saw you. They understood the weight you've been carrying and celebrated when you finally set it down. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. "This is your father. Your mother wanted me to tell you that she understands now why you reacted the way you did. She's working on things with her therapist. We'd like to try again with Oliver and Grace, if you'll let us. No expectations. No gifts. Just time together. Let us know." I showed Nathan the message. "What do you think?" "I think it's your decision," he said carefully. "But if you do let them try, make it conditional. Clear boundaries, consistent effort, or they're out again." I thought about it for 3 days before responding. When I finally did, I kept it simple. Supervised visits once a month. Video calls weekly. You miss 2 in a row, we're done. You treat my children any differently than Lauren's kids, we're done. You lie to me again about anything, we're done. These are non-negotiable terms. My father's response came within minutes: "Agreed. Thank you for the chance." I didn't respond to that. The first visit happened 3 weeks later at a neutral location, a park with playground equipment and walking trails. My parents arrived exactly on time, which was unusual for them. My mother looked older somehow, or maybe just tired. Grace hid behind my legs initially, uncertain about these grandparents who'd been absent from her life. Oliver maintained a careful distance, polite but wary. My mother's face crumpled when she saw their hesitation. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, dropping to Grace's level. "I'm sorry we haven't been better grandparents to you." Grace looked up at me questioningly. I nodded slightly, giving permission. "It's okay," Grace said with a child's easy forgiveness. "Do you want to see the monkey bars? I can do the whole thing without stopping now." My mother followed Grace to the playground, my father trailing behind with Oliver. Nathan and I stayed on a nearby bench, watching carefully. "You ready to pull the plug if this goes sideways?" Nathan murmured. "Absolutely." But it didn't go sideways. My parents asked questions and actually listened to the answers. They praised Oliver's soccer skills when he demonstrated some moves. They applauded when Grace showed off her monkey bar prowess. They were present in a way I'd rarely witnessed before. Still, I maintained my guard. One good visit didn't erase decades of patterns. Trust would have to be rebuilt slowly, if it could be rebuilt at all. As we walked back to our cars, my mother caught my arm gently. "I know I can't fix what I've done," she said quietly. "But I want you to know I'm trying to understand it. To understand why I favored Lauren, why I thought that was acceptable." Her eyes were wet. "You deserved better. You deserve better now. And your children deserve grandparents who show up for them." "Yes," I agreed simply. "We do." She nodded, accepting the implicit challenge in those words. Months passed. My parents maintained their weekly video calls with surprising consistency. They attended Oliver's soccer games and Grace's first piano recital. They sent cards for no particular reason, just thinking of you notes that the kids displayed proudly on their bedroom walls. They also started treating Lauren's kids differently, less indulgence, more boundaries. Lauren complained about it in a group text that accidentally included me. I didn't respond, but I didn't feel sorry for her either. By the time Christmas rolled around again, we'd settled into a tentative new normal. My parents invited us to their house for the holiday, but I declined. "We're starting our own traditions," I explained to my mother during one of our now regular phone calls. "But you're welcome to join us at our place Christmas evening for dessert and games." "We'd love that," she said without hesitation. They showed up with modest, thoughtful gifts for the kids: a science kit Oliver had mentioned wanting, piano sheet music at Grace's level. No expensive electronics, no designer anything. Just presents that showed they'd been listening. As we sat around our living room playing board games, Grace curled up against my mother on the couch, and Oliver explained the rules of his new favorite strategy game to my father. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. Nathan caught my eye from across the room and smiled. This wasn't the family I'd grown up with, the one where favoritism was expected and boundaries were scorned. This was something we'd built from the ashes of that dysfunction, imperfect, still healing, but fundamentally healthier. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren: "Merry Christmas." I typed back, "Merry Christmas to you too." Small steps. Everything was small steps now. But they were steps forward, which was more than I'd expected this time last year when budget issues had shattered what little illusion of equal treatment I'd been clinging to. Grace won her board game and did a victory dance around the coffee table. My mother laughed, a real laugh that reached her eyes. My father high-fived Oliver on a clever move he'd made during the game. These were the moments worth fighting for. Worth setting boundaries for. Worth the uncomfortable confrontations and difficult truths. My children would grow up knowing their worth wasn't negotiable. Knowing that people who loved them showed up consistently, not just when it was convenient. Knowing that sometimes the most loving thing you could do was refuse to accept less than you deserved. Later, after my parents had gone home and the kids were asleep, Nathan and I cleaned up the remnants of our Christmas celebration. "Think they'll stick with it?" he asked, wrapping leftover cookies in foil. "Your parents?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But if they don't, we'll be fine. Better than fine." "Because we have Aspen memories?" I smiled. "Because we have each other. Because our kids know they come first. Because we built something real instead of accepting something broken." Nathan pulled me into a slow dance there in our kitchen, no music playing, just the two of us swaying gently. "Best budget decision we ever made," he murmured against my hair. I thought about that text from my father, the one that had started everything. Budget issues. 2 words that had exposed a lifetime of imbalanced love and forced me to choose my children's well-being over my parents' comfort. "Yeah," I agreed. "Best decision ever." Outside, fresh snow began to fall, covering the world in clean whiteness. Inside, our home held the warmth of a family that had learned, the hard way, that love without consistency was just another word for disappointment. But we were past disappointment now. We were building something better, something true. And if that meant smaller Christmases without extended family drama, if it meant protecting boundaries some people found extreme, if it meant choosing peace over tradition, then that was a budget I could live with. One I'd choose again every single time.